what you want to be when you grow up?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Manus.
Wow.
Welcome to episode 2 of STEM Voices. I'm your host, Fanzai, and I am excited about our guest this episode, Patience Ruvimbo. She's the lead consultant for Kijani Africa. I'm excited to share her story with the rest of the world.
Hello, Patience. Welcome to STEM Voices. And I'm your host, Fadzai. And allow me to say I am very excited to have you here. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn a bit more about you and share your story with the rest of the world.
Thank you for having me, Fadzi. I'm excited to be here, and I am incredibly proud of the work that you're doing on STEM Voices and putting women in STEM on the front line. So thank you so much.
Aw.
So I'm Patience Ruvimbo Muyambo. I'll start with the professional stuff. I am a civil engineer by background, but I specialized in sustainable cities and eventually green buildings. So I am mostly on the sustainable construction and design side of civil engineering. And I'm also a wife and a mother and a daughter. So yeah, those are the other extra things that I do. But in a nutshell, that is who I am.
Wow, that's incredible. Like when you mention green buildings, when you mention civil engineering and being a mom and also a daughter, like, will you tell me like what drives you in life? What's the one thing that fuels your passion? I see the work that you do in sustainability, and I've seen the work that you were doing, like even from the time you finished like your first degree. You've always been someone who's a trailblazer. Like what drives you? What's the source of the passion that you have?
Um, I think it's deeply rooted in my faith. Um, so I'm Christian, staunch, a staunch Christian. And I think, especially in the church that I grew up in, we were always encouraged to be the best that we can be for the Lord. And so in doing that, I think I've always aspired for more. It's like, okay, so what more can I do? How else can I be an ambassador of the kingdom of God? And what else? Like I'm always looking for the next thing. Like, what more can I do? So I think that becomes the anchor. I think my faith is the anchor.
No, that's a very a solid like like drive and fuel in life. If it's your faith, that's something that people can't take from you wherever you go, whatever you're doing. If it's
Yeah.
all about your faith, like your faith is the anchor for everything. So you mentioned you're in sustainability, which is
Mhm.
very exciting and very relevant. Will you tell me a bit more as to what you do at Kijani, like what you do in terms of like sustainability? What does a day in the life of patients look like?
Okay. So I think in terms of sustainability, I sort of stumbled upon sustainability, right? Because when I went to do my master's, it was part of the program I was doing. What I'd gone for was the cities part of it. I didn't know, I wasn't really sure what sustainability was about. But when I learned about it, I became hooked and I realized this was what we needed to do, especially on our continent. And so you realize that a lot of work that we do for Kijani is based in Africa. We are trying to make sure, because we know most of Africa is developing. So where the rest of the world is trying to build back better and do things better, we are just saying we get to just build better. We don't have to build back. We don't have to do a lot of retrofitting, but in the stuff that we are already building, as developing nations, we get to develop in a more sustainable way. So a day in the life of Patience in Kijani, a lot of the work that I'm doing now is training of professionals, because like what I'm saying, a lot of the professionals and built environment professionals in Zimbabwe did not really know about sustainability. And it's like, okay, why do I have to do it? That's the question. It's like, why do we have to change? If what we're doing is not broken, why fix it? So it's a lot of training in terms of sustainable design, sustainable construction, and also lobbying policy wise, because it's something that we're trying to get into regulation. So you'll find I did some work with UN Habitat last year to come up with a green building rating system for Zimbabwe. And that was interesting to also find that. I think that's what then fueled Kijani, because I realized that before, people just didn't know. So when you would walk into the relevant offices, people are interested, but they didn't know that this was something they could actually pioneer. Yes, they know about climate change, but they don't know where it intersects. To say what is my role in making sure that as a professional in the Ministry of Environment, as a professional in the Ministry of Local Government. So it's trying to bring together all those stakeholders and say, okay, well, how can we get Zimbabwe to actually regulate and become more sustainable in the way we construct and we build our urban environment? So yeah.
Wow, that's literally the trailblazing that I was referring to. Like, was it like intimidating for you to introduce new concepts to people, like especially sustainability in the built environment, like which was not extremely well known in parts of Africa that you're working in? Was it intimidating like at first, and
Very.
how did you go about like introducing something new to the people, and how do they take it?
Okay, so it was very intimidating. Still is a bit. Um, sometimes. Because I think the problem was in that when I studied it, where I was studying it, people were already implementing it and they were excited about it, and there were options on what to do, who to talk to. So many people in the different fields. So coming back home and realizing that now it was like screaming at a wall. It's like let's talk about sustainability. And everyone's like, so what is it? Why does it matter? Why? Like what I was saying, the basis of it has really been what we are doing. What is wrong with what we are doing is working. So why do we need to fix it? So that has been the hardest thing. And I think one of the things that I really had to build was resilience. And I was quite a weak person. And I keep talking
It
about
didn't
resilience
show.
because for a long time, I would just, if I got rejected, I would spend so much time trying to just down to recover emotionally from the rejection. And I was trying to look for a lot of support in terms of, okay, I need a job. So if I get the job, then I'll introduce this. If I get this, and until I realized that, you know what, no one was going to do this for me. And I had to adapt and say, okay, in this environment, what can I do? With what I have, what can I actually do? And that's how Kijani was built, to say, okay, let me pursue the qualifications in terms of how to train people in terms of sustainability and then educate people more on that. Okay, let me now, with the role in UN Habitat, okay, let me now lobby for these things. Who can I now the people that I know, I now have a network. I realized there are actually people who were doing it. Funny stories. It's like it's almost how I met my husband as well, because he was talking about sustainability and I was like, oh, there are people talking about sustainability in Zimbabwe on Twitter. That's how we met. So on X now, that was Twitter. So
Oh,
that's actually how we met. So yes, there've been a lot of benefits in pursuing the sustainability journey. But yeah,
yeah,
I've had to
like,
build a lot of resilience on the journey, and to just, because I understand it, also give people room and grace to also learn about it and then come on board.
no, that's very like interesting, and like
Yeah.
at least there's a a STEM love story, so
Yes,
at
there
the
you
end
can
of the
find love
day,
in STEM.
have you faced any challenges in your career, and how did you overcome any challenges that you faced?
I think what I just mentioned about coming back to Zimbabwe after my
Yeah.
master's, that was a really tough time for me. Because I honestly thought it was just going to be easy for me to like get a job and then start doing this, and it didn't happen as quickly as I thought it would. And for a long time, I got into a place where I just didn't want to show up, you know.
Oh,
And it's interesting because people don't see it from the outside. They think everything is fine. But it took me a really long time to actually then just be like, you know what, I'm going to just do what I
you.
can in the moment. You know, what do I have? Looking at what I had and trying to do that. And I would say another person who really helped with that was my husband, to say, okay, if you don't get this job, does this mean that everything that you have done has been in vain? You know, so what can you do now? So having a support system in that regard was very important.
Was
And he
very
helped me
important.
reframe, because a lot of the framing I had was now turning to, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure. Oh my gosh, I couldn't get this. Oh, I can't do this. And I was like, no, you need to reframe. So a lot of it is reframing. When you come across a situation, don't really say things are happening to you, but okay, try to see how you can navigate that. So it was really important for me to reframe and then slowly show up, slowly when there's an application, apply for the thing. Because I got to a point where I was now like, I might never get this, so why should I try? Self-sabotage. But I now started to reapply, and then okay, then I got something, and then okay, you start seeing the baby steps. And then that's how also Kijani was born, in that reframing, to say, okay,
Wow.
I've learned this in the consultancy with UN Habitat. What else can I do? When I looked at the needs within the market in the Zimbabwean context, to say, okay, these are the needs that are there. How do I then come up with solutions for what is in the market now, and what can I do now? And so a lot of reframing is needed, a lot of support sometimes when you have challenges, and also trying to just have that resilience to say, okay, I'm going to stand up from this. I will fall, but I will stand up again. So those the challenges. Also, another little challenge was becoming a wife and a mother, so trying to be, because I was so career oriented. And so having more sort of
Your plate.
responsibilities and
Yeah.
trying to, initially I was trying to find a balance, but I've learned that there is no balance. You find I think Michelle Obama says you find which ones are the glass balls at the moment. So some of them are glass balls. So today maybe my child's not feeling well, so that's the glass ball, and that's the one in the juggle. Everything else can fall down, but I will make sure that that ball is intact. And then tomorrow maybe I have an important engagement for work, so that becomes the glass ball, and I make a plan for everything else. Sometimes it's my relationship that I need to pay attention to, so it's finding that balance and trying to
Balance.
prioritize and changing things. So yeah.
No, I think that that's very powerful, that what you mentioned, like reframing, and not treating like challenges as if it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to reconfigure, like readjust, and see how you can face different challenges. And just what you mentioned, be having a support system, like the people
Yes.
around you have such an impact on
Impact.
who we
Yes.
become, that sometimes we actually don't realize. Like, I've seen the posts. I think your husband is like your biggest cheerleader, so I can definitely tell that he's a solid person that you can rely on. So that's very motivating. And okay, to the fun stuff.
Yay.
So you've done all this work, Patience. Like, it's
Yes.
incredible. You're this powerful lead consultant at Kijani. Like, I'm gonna take you back to how it started. Why did you choose a career in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? You had such good grades. You could have been anything, but why science, technology, engineering, and mathematics?
Okay. So, what I really, really wanted to do initially, I remember when I got to A level, like what you said, support system, my dad insisted that I do physics instead of bio because I wanted to do biology. I was like, I enjoy biology. And he's like, no, do physics because if you do physics, you'll have more options. If you do bio, you won't have as many options. So I remember when we went for the interview for my A-level place, before I could even, so the teacher asks, so which subjects are you going to? My dad was like, maths, physics. I was like, I don't even have a choice.
Mom
It's my
shower.
life, Yes, I was like, it's my choice. But then I did it, and I realized he was actually quite right about me. I wasn't much of a reader, so I'm good with like your math. You give me an equation and just let me do that. But when you now want me to read volumes of stuff, I'm like, I will do it, but it's not my strength, right?
Yeah.
And I also had quite a creative side, and I really wanted to explore that. So initially, I'd said I wanted to study architecture, but he was like, so my dad, it was just mostly my dad. He was like, nah, try something else, maybe try civils. I've got an uncle who's a civil engineer, and he was like, yeah, you could do that. And another thing is that I remember we used to take the bus for church in the school that I learned it for A-level, and so we used to drive along Samora Machel. And the new Nando's had just been constructed and it was looking gorgeous. I was like, "Ah, that's the
Wow.
kind of stuff I want to do." I was like, you know what? So, because I felt like it was the technical mixed with that really creative thing. So I was like, okay, something in the built environment I could do. So then I then settled for civil engineering. And it was great because it wasn't immensely difficult. So I was like, okay, we can work with this. There wasn't a lot of the creativity. So every time I remember because we learned together, every time we'd get those. I remember there was a time we were told to do a design of that timber room. I had the time of my life. I was like, I'm going to
Wow.
design this building and draw it. I wasn't excited about the concrete ratios, guys, to be honest. I was not there with my heart. But when it was time to draw stuff, I was like, give me a chance to draw. Give me some color, you know. And towards the end of our final year, when I was now doing my final year project, that's when I was really intrigued by cities, right? Because I did stormwater drainage and I realized everything was so interconnected. And now I was like on fire
Wow.
for cities. So
Wow.
that's sort of how my journey with STEM has been. It has been initially a lot of my father's influence, and then eventually me figuring things out and the things that I liked, and then stumbling into sustainability, like we spoke before. So, yeah, that has
Thank
been my
you,
journey.
Nando's.
Yes, Nando's. We need to shout out to Nando's.
Nando's was that spark of inspiration. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
yeah, I could tell like you're someone who's very good with your hands, very, very creative. You like to decorate. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that and it's and I'm like very proud of you in the sense that, you've stuck to your core, like to what you loved in the sense that
Mm.
it was inspiration about being excited about the built environment, moving on to cities. It's like in a way you've really stuck
Yeah.
to the main principles. Last question, Patience Muyambo.
Yes.
What message or piece of advice would you like to give to all the listeners across the world, like for them to succeed in their careers or in life in general when it comes to pursuing a career that is in STEM? Like, what advice would you give people?
Okay. I think the first thing would be for them to choose it for themselves. In the sense that if your reason for not doing STEM is external, because I think for some people it's like, oh, girls don't do STEM, that's an external reason. If it's someone else or like a societal thing, I would say no, don't listen to that. If deep within you, you're like, I'm good at this, I can do this, then you should really go for it. And I would really go back to that resilience thing to say, I think I spent so much time wallowing that I just need to tell the world that, you know what, try and move on as quickly as possible. I was listening to a lady speak at an engagement the other day, and they were saying, you know what, if something happened more than 3 years ago, we,
Move
we, we
on.
should have sort of moved on from it by now, because it will hold you. All it's doing is holding you back. And yes, it's difficult. We will not negate the fact that emotionally and life sometimes will just
The
life,
rejections
but
they
try
hurt.
and build that resilience within yourself to say, you know what, this has been hard, but now I'm moving on. Okay, this has been difficult, but now I'm moving on. And really try to build that resilience. Also, keep a good support system. I think that has been one of the most pivotal thing, to have people like Fadzi, guys, the people I learned with. Like, I look at them like, right, exactly, this is what we're going for. So surround yourself with people that, first of all, will push you to do better, help you with the reframing, like I said, to say, when you look at your circumstances, there can be people who would be like, hey, woe is you, it's so terrible, and that's it. They could give you room to vent, but they should also then remind you of who you are and your capabilities.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
that is, yeah, so that is very important in terms of the people that you also have around you. And because I'm a person of faith, I will have to go there and say, root
Exactly.
yourself
Always.
somewhere. I would always advocate for Jesus Christ.
Amen.
He is the way, the truth, and the life. So find an anchor, because life does life, and sometimes you try and look for answers that you might never get here. So try and find somewhere to root your faith in. So yeah, I think that is it from me.
Thank you so much, Patience. I was about to say cousin, but thank you so much. That's really inspirational because, personally, I've also been in, hard situations in life where you feel like there's no way out of this. That's not our
Yes,
defining moments. We just have to keep
yes,
moving forward, like keep looking forward, having good people around us, people who motivate
yes,
us, who push us, because sometimes you might be in a bad situation, but that is not the end of your story.
yes.
And Jesus, of course. So thank you. Thank you, Patience. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm sure
Yeah.
people from across the world will learn a bit more about your career and your life story, and hopefully it can help someone out there. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you for having me, Fadzi. This is great work. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. We are watching the episodes. We'll be there. We want to get to season 50 of STEM Voices.
I receive, cousin.
Yes, we want to see this go to all the corners of the world. So well done. This is great.
Aw, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words.
Baby shark, do do do, baby shark, do do do, baby
Aw.
shark, do do do, baby shark.